Okay, so as I was saying, when I was coming in today, people said, what are you doing with that extravagant, beautiful vestment on? Because it's a little out of ordinary for me to wear something like this. I mean, it's very expensive, it's very nice. And it was purchased by the generosity of a parishioner a couple years ago, 2 years ago, when Deacon Andy was ordained. But Deacon Andy and I don't know what to do with it because it doesn't match, you know, it's just too nice, it's too ornate. So I thought I'd wear it today, and I'll tell you about that in a second. But the only time we ever use it is something special like benediction or Eucharistic devotion. But I thought I'd wear it today, and what this really is called, this vestment is called a dalmatic. The dalmatic is the official vestment of the deacon. The deacon wears two vestments. He wears the sideways stole and the dalmatic. Now, they're very different than what the priest wears. He wears a chasuble. A chasuble is a seamless garment because Jesus, on his way up to the cross, was wearing a seamless purple garment that the soldiers, cast lots for. But he wears that because he is persona Christi. He acts in the person of Christ when he's conferring the Eucharist and the sacraments. The rest of the time, he's just plain old Father Norm. Now, he's Jesus for all of us, he really is. But anyway, so the dalmatic has sleeves, and it really represents kind of an apron as a symbol of service, because the word deacon comes from the word diakonos, means to serve. And so the sideways stole that we wear is supposed to be a symbol of a towel. We're serving, we're washing the feet of the apostles as the apostles washed the feet of. So in other words, it just shows you that the deacons do all the work around here. Not true. Especially Deacon Andy, I'm just the add-on. But the real reason I wore this today is because in the gospel, there's that wonderful line where Jesus says to the people who are going out to see John the Baptist, he says, what are you going to see? Are you going out to look for someone dressed in fine robes and garments? Is that what you want to try to see? And you know what? You know what they got. This is what they got when they went out to see John the Baptist. Torn jeans, right? They got to see a guy in torn clothing, camel hair, crazy beard, crazy hair, eating locusts and honey. He was a wild man, right? What did you come here to see today? You didn't come to see this, right? It's not really our style, and besides, it's the wrong color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off and honor it in a special place, which is the deacon's chair. Don't worry, he's not taking anything else. And I will put on the rose-colored vestment, which is appropriate for today, which is Gaudete Sunday. And the reason that, as Father said, the reason why we wear the rose is because this is called Joyful Sunday, Rejoice Sunday. And obviously, right here, we have another reason to rejoice because this family will be baptizing two of their children after Mass. So, again, the readings focus on this. What were the people looking for when they went out into that desert? And the question for all of us is, what are we looking for? What are we going out to see each and every day when we go about our day in a workplace, in the school, in your family, out across the city, wherever you're going? And what are you looking for when you come here? What do you come to see? People were going out to see John because they were looking for the Messiah. They were looking for an answer to all their questions. They were looking for someone who would bring them peace. in a world that was occupied by a very oppressive government, the Romans. They were looking for peace in their lives. So the question also during this Advent season is, what gives you peace? Particularly, what gives you inner peace? And one of the things that, for me, this time of year, that gives me inner peace, believe it or not, I know this might sound a little unusual, is Christmas cards. I have a thing about Christmas cards. In the 50 years that we've been married, I always do the Christmas cards while my wife Paula decorates the house and does all the cooking and all that other stuff that you get ready for Christmas. But I do the cards. And the reason I do the cards is this. When I write a card to somebody, I say a little prayer for them. And I don't do this because I'm, holy and pious. No, it's an opportunity to just take a moment and pray a little prayer for that person whose name I put in that card. And sometimes I'll add a little line or two about what's going on in their lives, wishing them well. And the other thing, I like to get cards. Because when I get a card, it makes me think, or I like to think, that the person who wrote it is saying a prayer for me, or they're thinking of me when they sent it. I know that's a little bit idealistic. Sometimes we write them real quick and get them out of the way. But that's my little thing that I love about this time of the year. And we don't get as many cards as we used to. I suspect, probably that's due to the cost of postage and the cost of the cards. In fact, this year I ran out of cards. I went to the Hallmark store to buy another box, and I was like, what? $17.99 for 10 cards? So I always go the day after Christmas because they're half price. But I love getting them. And I have another reason I do this is because years ago when I first became a deacon, I had a very close friend, priest. His name was Father Jim Klein. And Jim Klein is now retired, living in a nursing care. And I think it's interesting that our second collection today is for retired priests. But he used to collect cards, Christmas cards. That was his hobby. And you should have seen it. He had like 50, 60 years worth of cards that he stacked up in his office, and he had them categorized. So he would have this big stack of cards that were secular. They had Happy Holidays on the front, or Santa Claus. Then he had another stack that would have the manger scenes, and another stack that might have angels or stars, the religious. And he had like 5 categories of stars. But his favorite card of all was the cards that had the Blessed Mother Mary on them. And then he said to me, and something that makes me think about this, the reason I'm bringing this up in my homily, he says, have you ever seen a Christmas card with John the Baptist on the front? No, you don't. And John the Baptist has everything to do with Christmas, right? I mean, here we are, all these readings these last couple Sundays about preparing for the coming of Jesus. But he said, imagine what it'd be like to get a card with John the Baptist on the front with the holy torn clothes and his crazy hair and his camel hair. And then when you open the card, you might get a little, some of these cards have a little recording. And when you open it, it said, this was the greeting. You brood of vipers, you sinners. No, you wouldn't want to get a card like that. John the Baptist was about change and hope. And in his own strange way, he was about finding inner peace, challenging people to repent. And it's in that repenting that one finds peace. And I don't know about you, but when I go to confession, when I come out of that confessional, I always have that sense of relief that a great weight has been taken off my soul. And I feel very much at peace. Probably more than almost any sacrament for me is the sacrament of confession. Just that sense of inner peace. And I think that we all experience that when we receive the Eucharist too, knowing that Jesus is within us. John was a pointer. He pointed to Jesus. He had to fall back, right? He must increase, I must decrease. What a humble thing to do and say. And that's what he did. But he was showing us that there's one greater than him coming. And he would be the Prince of Peace. He would be the one that everybody wanted to experience and were really looking for. That's why they went out there. They didn't go out there to see John. They were looking for the Messiah. They wanted true happiness and peace. And certainly, that's what attracts us to Jesus, right? What attracts us to him is that his love for us, it is real. His love for us is what brings us true inner peace, not just today, but forever. Forever. We are a resurrection people. It's forever. We're attracted to Christ for that reason. So this final week and a half before Christmas may be for all of you and your families a time to really recover peace. Recover inner peace in your hearts and in your families and in everyone you encounter. And when you go Christmas shopping, consider buying some holy jeans.